Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville. I'm Andy Wilson. I'm the Executive Director and your host today. We've got such a great podcast. I'm looking forward to jumping into that right now. So let me just get straight to our guest, Ryan Hughes. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
It is so great to have you in the studio. I will tell you, we met several weeks ago at an event. In fact, the in-part event, Ryan came up to we were broadcasting live at the event. Ryan came to the booth and said, what is Doing Business in Bentonville? And so we got having a chat. And the great thing is that our conversation led to this.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, I'm as I mentioned then, I'm a huge fan of the show. We talk about it a lot. I've watched a fair amount of both this and then BV's show that he just spun up. My buddy Joel Ponce was just on that. So I'm a big fan. We're really excited to be here and start to tell the Gratsy story.
Well, we're excited to tell the Gratsy story. And Ron, you're Vice President of Product Strategy.
Correct.
Okay.
So my org is kind of like all of the creative team, and then our digital product strategy and talent. And we'll talk about that in a second, but talent's a big portion of our business.
Well, I want our viewers to really understand this company. After we visited, I did research about your company, and I will tell you, I was blown away. I was like, we have to tell the story to thousands of people to get to know more about your great company, what you do, how you do it, the creativeness that you do. We got so many great stories to tell today. We're going to get straight to it. How's that?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we're good. All right, well, tell our audience, just because we want to get into some great questions, but tell our audience just a quick overview of Gratsy and what you do.
So yeah, we're an experiential marketing agency, and for folks who don't really know what that is, the way that we say it is that we create curated product experiences that connect brands with their audiences. We can really do that in any number of ways, but for ease of understanding, we break it down in kind of like three areas that we interact with consumers. The first one of those is in home. And our business model started as kind of like DTC sampling, right? And that's still a big part of who we are at our core, is this idea that we are precision packed and hyper targeted product drop. We will send it to your home. We will create an experience that you can have with your family, and it becomes this authentic way to try something new, right? And then we ask for feedback and all those things. The second way that we interact is out in the community, and we do that through experiences or events. That can be anything from a food truck last year around this time, we set up a cranberry bog out in front of 4 different Walmarts, where folks could come. They put on waiters, they stepped in, they could throw the cranberries up and have these like real fun, authentic family experiences at their local store, all the way to, we've taken over Santa Monica Pier several times. The first time, like, as a beach party for a skincare company, where we gave people the chance to, sample sunscreen right where you need it at the beach, right? And then the third way that we say we interact is online. And we do a lot of that through talent, through creators, whether that is, small, hyper-targeted, right? Like we go after a beauty creator who may be an expert in oily skin or a certain hair type and has that authentic connection, all the way to, we've done work with Snoop Dogg. We did work with Betty White before she passed. Our talent roster is really cool when you gotta go back and look at it.
That is why I wanted to have you on. When I went to your website, and I the first thing I seen was the cranberries, okay? And I went, that's you, because I think that's such a phenomenal commercial, if you will, and the way you put that on. And then when we were visiting, you told me, I really want you to talk about a couple of those events that you did. I think Death Valley, you went to the mountaintop and some of that. And I think our audience is going to be blown away to hear about this. So, but give us a great example where of one of your recent events where you said, okay, man, we just blew it out of the park.
So we just recently, and some of your viewers may have been there, we just wrapped a project down in Fayetteville where we partnered with Walmart Connect and ESPN. So ESPN has recently launched kind of a new direct consumer offering where you don't have to have cable, you don't have to go through, a certain deal. You can buy ESPN directly from them. And they work in, I'm sure you've seen the rise and power of the RMNs, right? Like they, through a partnership with Connect, kind of had this media partnership out there. And it was like, okay, but how do we interact with shoppers in stores, right? Walmart is constantly pushing the store as media, which is a really cool opportunity, especially for us, to kind of, I don't want to use the word disrupt shopping habits, but provide something that is attractive and fun and engaging for shoppers around brands. And so they kind of came to us and it was like, how do we do this? Because Walmart doesn't sell ESPN. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, let's work together and create this big experience, right? And so it was kind of like one part studio. We had the guys from 99.5 that were in there a couple days a week recording. It was one part kind of like sports history memorabilia museum. We had the SEC trophy was in there. We had Darren McFadden's Heisman finalist. We got his two Doak Walkers on loan from the university for a little while, down to Jordan Weber lent us an Olympics worn uniform that we were able to kind of like put up there. And then we did a bunch of stuff where there was fan meet and greets. So, the whole idea was let's bring Arkansas sporting legends to the store and let people do this. And so we worked with ESPN directly. There were so many stakeholders, but we got an actual SportsCenter desk in there. It was a really, really cool experience. And I think everybody really enjoyed it. And so the second one is running right now in Dallas. Because so for your viewers, that took place in a Walmart lease space. So, just beyond cash registers, there's always an eye doctor or a salon. Right. We take those spaces over and completely transform them into kind of like pop-up store within a store or product experience.
What again, when in my research and our conversation we had, one of the things we focus here at Doing Business in Bentonville on is what we call the omni-channel experience. Because as you have the brick and mortar, you have the online, you have the pickup, you have the delivery. All of that takes place. It's so exciting what retail is doing. And now what you have created, you and your company, is this entertainment that's all part of this omni-channel experience. Because when you go in those stores, what you're doing is exciting, or outside the stores or other places, what you're doing is creating this whole omni-channel experience. And that's the exciting part of retail today. So, you have to have great talent. Sure. And so my question is, especially when you deal with celebrities and and athletes and all of that. So how do you align that? That's got to be the hard part behind the scenes we don't get to see.
So align kind of like all the moving pieces.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. We talked earlier, and it was like, how do you adapt strategies? And I thought a lot about that, right? And it's like we don't so much adapt strategies as adaptation is the strategy. The way that people interact with culture changes all the time, right? Like if you look at the way people shop today versus the way they shopped 5 years ago, it's night and day. If you look at where AI is taking just the standard customer experience in any channel, whether that's retail, whether that's subscription services, what have you, it evolves very, very quickly. And so you've got to stay on top of those things and be nimble.
Well, you've got, and I think too, you got to have this whole diverse of talent in order to create what you just talked about, this format where all of us are interested in what you're doing. At some point, you've got to have this huge diversity of talent. And it seems like you're being able to bring that diversity of talent together and create this experience. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we hire for a wide variety of traits, right? And I think like internally, we look for subject matter experts, right? Because as we're a small company, we're a young company where we just turned 6 over the summer. And so that leads to certain hurdles as you scale. Right. It used to be everybody kind of did everything. And as we've grown, we've been able to like really lean into subject matter experts and bring folks in who have unique skill sets that really build it. And then, the other side of that on talent, like as we look at it as something that we help demystify for our folks, you have to like look at that based on what you're trying to do. Right. And really like focus on, okay, like what's the size and scale you're trying to get at versus what's authentic? Like, are we driving awareness or are we driving direct action? And you start there and you build a program for those things.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about culture and values for a moment, because you brought up authenticity, accountability, creativity, because in my research for your company, your testimonies are your client testimonies, they talk about accountability, they talk about creativity, they talk about authenticity as very important values inside your organization, what you're trying to display or present to the customer, or and do you call them customers? What do you?
We call them whatever we need to, right? So I say that because we and I'll use this phrase again. We're the background dancers. We're there to support somebody else's story. So if you call them customers, we call them customers. If you call them members, we call them members. If you call them fans, we're going to call them fans. Because we're not, it's not our show. But I think, to those 3 points, like the authenticity, the accountability, the creativity, we don't have a choice. We have to be that way. Like we're young, we're small. But as I said, the culture moves so fast. If we want to be relevant, you have to be that way. You have to hold each other accountable. And a lot of that takes place through celebrating both wins and losses, right? Like after every project, I've been at a lot of different companies and I've seen a lot of different approaches. We take the COE very serious. Because while everything we do is somewhat bespoke, there is a lesson that comes from everything you do that you should hopefully be able to turn around and apply to the next project and make it a little bit better, a little bit smoother, a little bit more effective.
Good, exciting. Okay, now let's talk about innovation and risk for a moment, okay? Because again, in our conversation and research, I know there's some stories around those, innovation and risk. Can you talk to us about a story or two about that?
There definitely are. So I think, when we first talked, I told you a story that was prior to my time, and it was one of the first things that put us on the map. And Old El Paso, the taco shells and Takis had a collaboration, right? And so there were these supremely spicy taco shells, and the team was like kicking around ideas on like how to really lean into that as a product benefit. And this whole idea of temperature extremes came up. And so I was like, well, we don't just want to sample, we want to like contextually sample. So Jake, who's our VP of sales and a good friend of mine, he's a big dude and like literally strapped a tent to his back with a thermos full of taco meat, and he and Bethany, our CEO, and a camera crew like hiked out, which was the coldest place on record in America, and did like pop-up taco sampling. And then they repeated that same deal out in Death Valley. And the whole thing was like, hey, let's capture content and let's really do this. And that's, you talk about taking a risk, like trying to talk a client into that and being like, yeah, I know it's a crazy idea, but like stick with us here and let's talk through what this looks like. And so I think, what's important to realize is that it's never just us taking a risk, right? It is the client, it is the partner, it is all the people who come along with you. And it's like, hey, I've got an idea. This is out there, but what if we blank, right? And so we work very hard to cultivate that trust, because at the end of the day, it's not just us. Like, you're going to have to go to your boss and be like, hey, so I spent money on this crazy pop-up experience, or, like, we're going to bring cranberry bogs to Walmart, whatever those things are.
I love it. Well, you really do what I think I really want our audience and viewers to really understand, that you do experimental marketing with bold ideas. And I think that takes a lot of courage to do some of the things that you're doing. But what a win for the market, the company or the organization that you're doing. What a win for them. I mean, because I will tell you, people, they remember those kind of things, those bold moves that you do. Just like several things when I went on your website, I remember that commercial. I remember seeing that.
Sure.
And so I know with everything we do, there's setbacks.
Sure.
Always. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, especially what you're trying to do. And so when there's a setback, talk about how you pivot.
So that's interesting, because like, in live events, like, it's par for the course. They are coming. There is no like, you can plan and you can have contingencies and you can have all of that. But something will require a pivot somewhere along the line. Like, it's just the way that the industry works. And you have to just kind of roll with it, right? And so, like, I'll give you a good example of that. So over the summer, we were doing a big retail activation down in Texas, and it was all, grilling and barbecue based. And so there was a whole bunch of supplier stakeholders involved, and it was a rather large production. And so 2 days before go time, we realized that, what happened doesn't really matter, but a huge number of buns, hamburger buns, didn't make it, like, weren't on site, and they were specific to a supplier. And then, it was a large quantity. And the other fun part is that they were a new item, so they weren't necessarily traded in all of the stores. And so this happened, and it was just one of those things where it was like, I want to say it was a Wednesday at like 10:30 in the morning that we realized all. Within like 30 minutes, we had not only a plan where pretty much the entire team like just spread out like spiders. And it was like, I live in Bella Vista, so I was like, I got Southwest Missouri covered. I will get in the car right now. I will go buy every pack of hamburger buns that I can find. Christy, one of our business ops folks, was like, I'll drive it. She got on the phone with her husband and kids and was just like, not coming home today, need to drive to Texas. And then we had to rent this big van and load it up with literally hundreds of packs of hamburger buns. And, like, nobody was the wiser, right? Like, we drove them overnight, we got them there. But I think what's important there is, like, we make the analogy all the time that we're like the duck, right? Like on the surface, it's smooth, it's calm. Underneath, man, those little flippers are going. And what's important is that, like, that reaction, that flipper going, isn't something the consumer sees, right? It isn't something that ideally even the brand sees. It's part and parcel for working in live events, and you learn to adapt.
Well, I think that what you're describing and what in our conversations, and I really want our viewers to understand this, you have such a great company. This is part of your culture. You're gonna figure it out. When there is a setback, when there is a crisis, if you will, you're going to do what it takes, work all night, drive all night, whatever it takes, in depth. So how did that end up? Did you get the buns there? And
Buns there, you know, everybody enjoyed their summer barbecue, right? Like it was, nobody knew. You know, we knew, and we still talk about Bunpocalypse. That sounds weird. That same scenario has probably come up, I don't know, 3 times in the past year, where it becomes this like fun, crazy scavenger hunt that takes your afternoon.
Well, from concept to completion. That's what you're about.
Yep.
Whatever it takes underneath that.
All the way.
It sounds like your company is going to do it.
Yeah. You know, and that starts with understanding that client, that ask. It goes back. It's so important to start up front with a clear understanding of objective and then who your stakeholders are, right? Because you, especially in what we do, we talked about risk, we talked about trust. You're asking people to go along for crazy rides with you. And, you know, is it a relationship where somebody's going to instill total trust and they just want this button, they trust the reputation, they trust our expertise? Or do they want to ride shotgun in the food truck? And we, you know, we'll work with either way, but understanding that up front is very, very important because we need to manage key milestones against that. Like, hey, how much of the sausage do you want to see being made? How involved do you want to do that? And complexity drives a lot of that, right? So, you know, another great example I mentioned, we've got a fourth wall lease space open in a Texas Walmart right now outside of Dallas, and it's with our partners at Chobani and La Colombe Coffee. And there's a fair amount of both food and beverage sampling that goes on within the space, including this whole creamer, right? Where you can come up and you can try all the different flavors of their creamer product with the La Colombe Coffee. So that in and of itself requires kind of all these stakeholders to figure out like, okay, how do you clean the lines? How do you refrigerate that space? Where is that product coming from? Is this coming out of the back room? Are we taking things out of stock from the store, or is this a special order? You know, that whole space is transactable, meaning you can purchase products in there. Where do those products live in a virtual mod, right? Because our space didn't exist a week ago. So like when I say complexity drives that need for partnership, we really try to understand up front, like, hey, how complex is this ask? Has this been done before? If it hasn't been done before, let's talk about our ways of working so that we can all get to a successful place at the end.
Wonderful. Wow, great. Okay, as you grow, okay, let's talk about scaling for a minute. So as you grow, you take on larger clients. In my research again, I've seen a large company like Clorox and others there. It just mentioned large companies, no question about it. And then great testimonies, by the way, there. So as you begin to grow the company, talk about your scaling process.
So, you know, it's super interesting because everything we do is somewhat bespoke, right? Every experience is different. Every client is different in what they're trying to achieve and kind of like the way that they're going about it. So where we've spent a lot of our time is building processes that allow for that, right? Like, how can we let a subject matter expert lean in and really put their knowledge to use, right? And so getting that transfer done, and we talked about, you know, going from the startup 6 years ago where everybody kind of did everything to like, oh no, there's a person now with like this highly specialized skill set, but you can't get in the way because we, you know, part of what we promise is this very kind of white glove service and it has to stay unique. It has to stay fresh. We can't modularize it and just do the same thing over and over again because that's not an experience that's going to be fun.
Okay, this has been so much fun. You have done such a great job talking about this. I really do. So as we wrap, as we think about it, what what do you want our viewers to know about your great company? How do they get in touch with your great company? Talk about that.
So yeah, hello@gratsy.com. Easy email. GRATSY. So, you can reach out there. I think we're out in the community. Yeah. We'd love to reach out and have conversations. I think if there's one thing I would ask your listeners to consider, it's like, what are they doing? What can they do to ensure that the way they interact with their audience, their customers, their fans, whatever that is, how do you make that fun? How do you make that something that is engaging, that your target audience wants to engage with? And once you solve that issue, which is where we lean in, you find that you really wind up with honest connections, right? Like you find out what that NPS metric really is when people are out spreading, hey, look at this cool thing I got to do. I just went to Walmart. I didn't know that was there, or I did. Yeah. And I planned the trip around it. And that's cool.
Ryan, again, a great job. I mean, I was excited about your company before, but I'm more excited about your company now. And now, one of these days when you do one of these events, maybe we could come down and broadcast live or something on your events or something, and but maybe our viewers would like us to do that. If Ryan and his team will let us do it, we'll come down and do it for sure.
We'd love to have love to have you.
But Ryan Hughes, thank you. You've just a great job at talking about your company, and one of the things to all of our viewers, this is a great company. There's great people there. You've heard and Ryan talk about really the culture, the heartbeat of the company, and just great people. But you really do. You're one of a kind, and where you do connect brands and their target customers in a measurable, memorable way. You do that so well. So congratulations to that.
Well, thanks. We really try.
So great. So to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you so much. Can you continue to reach out to me on LinkedIn? I'll answer your text to me. And also thank you for making doing business in Bentonville so successful. As I mentioned before, we are in over 100 countries and over 2,000 views a day. That's because of you. Thank you so much. Continue to repost us. Continue to share your experiences with us, and we'll continue to have people like Ryan and people here on our show. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Come back sometime. I want you to come back.
I'd love to. This was a blast.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.